We are manifestations of consciousness, like water that takes on different forms in containers.
Our true essence lies in the reason and love we direct towards our actions, not in the expectations of others.
Our individuality is like a unique painting. Each stroke has its specific purpose.
When we observe our thoughts clearly, we free ourselves from the shackles of self-deception.
Hello, I'm Ruby and Oliver, and today I have the honor of welcoming two of the greatest spiritual masters of all time. Yogananda, an enlightened master of Kriya Yoga, and Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor. The timeless wisdom of these two giants of thought will guide us on a fascinating journey. Today we will explore a fundamental theme, because nobody is what they think. We will discover who we really are beyond the illusions of the mind, diving into profound teachings about consciousness, identity, and self-knowledge. You will understand why your limitations are merely mental constructs, how to transcend the ego through ancient wisdom, and discover practical tools to awaken your true essence. We will address topics such as the nature of consciousness, the role of meditation, and how to distinguish between the voice of the mind and inner wisdom. So let's start with a deep and fundamental question that touches the essence of our being. Yogananda, if our identity is an illusion created by the mind, who are we, really?
Rubian, this question is truly fascinating and profound. When we talk about identity as an illusion, we are referring to how the mind constructs narratives about who we are. Since childhood, immersed in a web of experiences, emotions, and interactions, we begin to shape our self-image. However, this self-image is like a reflection in a lake. It seems real, but in truth, it is impermanent and subject to distortions. Who are we, then, if we are not this construction? We are manifestations of consciousness. Imagine how water takes the shape of the container it is in. Our true essence is this pure consciousness, which transcends the limits of the mind and the stories it tells. This connects each of us to a greater whole. As we seek the freedom that comes from self-knowledge, we find our place among the interconnections of life. Thus, we are both individuals, with unique stories, and parts of this vast fabric of existence. It is this duality that invites us to expand our perception and realize that beyond the illusion, we are eternal travelers on the path of consciousness and spirituality, seeking to return to our true self.
What a fascinating perspective, Yogananda. And you, Marcus? How do you see this issue of our true identity beyond the illusions of the mind?
The question of identity and its illusory nature invites us to a deep reflection. Imagine a blank sheet of paper. As we write our life, we fill this sheet with experiences, thoughts, and emotions. However, this sheet, by itself, does not define who we are. It is merely a support for our writing. Thus, we are the consciousness that observes and gives meaning to these drafts. Our true self manifests in the ability to perceive and interact with the world, free from the shackles of labels and appearances. Often, we lose ourselves in narratives that society constructs around us, as if we were merely the roles we play. However, the true essence lies in the reason and love we direct towards our actions, and not in the expectations that others have of us. As we navigate through this existence, we must remember that identity is not fixed, but a constant transformation. In each interaction, in every challenge we face, we have the opportunity to redefine our being, moving away from superficiality and seeking the purity of our principles. Thus, we are eternally a work in progress, beings that shape themselves through experience and understanding, connecting to the great web of humanity. Therefore, more than who we are, what truly matters is how we choose to live and act from this understanding.
Extraordinary how both perspectives lead us to a deeper understanding of who we really are. Let's move on to our next question. But before we continue, let me give you an amazing tip. Did you know that it's very easy to get ahead of 99% of people, succeeding in everything you want for your life? I'll leave a link below in the first comment to a book that changed my view on several aspects of my mind, and that has been helping thousands of people find clarity and confidence to achieve their goals and dreams. Don't miss it. I'm sure you'll love it. Now let's explore something that intrigues many people. Yogananda, meditation is often misunderstood. Some see it as an escape from reality, while others see it as a path to self-knowledge. What is the true nature of this ancient practice?
Rubian, it's interesting how you frame this question. Meditation is far from being an escape, it is precisely the opposite. Imagine the mind as a turbulent lake, full of waves and debris. When we meditate, we allow this lake to calm naturally, revealing clearly what was hidden in its depths. I remember my experiences under the guidance of my guru, where I discovered that the practice leads us to a state of consciousness where external distractions naturally dissipate. It is in this space of inner silence that we can hear the whisper of our true nature, that which is eternal and unchanging. Meditation helps us remove the various masks we have accumulated throughout life, identities that make us believe we are something different from what we truly are. By turning our attention inward, we discover our unity with the divine and realize that we are part of a greater expression of life. Each session becomes a journey of self-discovery, an invitation to reveal our authentic self.
Fascinating, this perspective on meditation as a path of revelation. And you, Marcus, how do you see this practice? Does it take us away from or closer to reality?
Meditation is, in fact, a portal to a deeper understanding of reality, Rubian. When we allow ourselves to silence and look within, we begin to observe our internal responses to everything around us, like a map unfolding before us. Constant practice allows us to better understand our motivations and disturbances. Through self-reflection, we come into contact with desires and fears that often act as invisible shadows guiding our actions. By confronting them with awareness, we open space not only for acceptance but for true transformation. Meditation is a way to cultivate mental purity and moral integrity, allowing for a more authentic life. Far from being an escape, it invites us to face the complexity of our being and align with the natural order of the universe. It is through it that we discover and realize our deepest nature, always interconnected with the essence of all things.
What a beautiful understanding. Meditation truly reveals itself as a powerful tool for self-knowledge and connection with our true essence. Let's move on to our next question. And for you who are noticing the quality of this conversation and the depth and importance of what we are discussing here, help us by leaving your like and also comment on what you would like to see here on our channel. I sincerely thank you for your help. We now come to an intriguing question that touches the essence of our being. Yogananda, who is the observer behind the thoughts? Does this question bring us closer to the truth or lead us into a maze with no exit?
Rubian, this question is an invitation to a fascinating journey of self-discovery. Think of the observer as that part of us that remains constant, like a lighthouse illuminating the night, while our thoughts come and go like waves in the sea. When we distance ourselves and begin to observe our own thoughts, it's as if we are watching a movie. We realize that there is something beyond the story being told. This something is pure consciousness, which remains serene regardless of the drama unfolding on the screen of the mind. It is true that sometimes this search can seem like a complex maze. We ask ourselves, "Who am I?" and each answer seems to lead us to more questions. But it is precisely in this process of introspection that we find the most valuable clues about our true nature. The beauty lies in realizing that we do not need to eliminate thoughts, we only need to recognize that we are the consciousness that observes them. It's like being on top of a mountain, watching the valley below. You don't need to change the landscape to appreciate its vastness.
What a profound perspective, Yogananda. And you, Marcus, how do you see this question of the observer behind the thoughts?
This question of the observer, Rubian, takes us to the heart of our own consciousness. It's fascinating how we can have this ability to observe our own mental processes, as if there were an internal space of clarity and discernment that transcends thought itself. But we need to be careful not to get lost in this investigation. It's like exploring unknown territory. If we don't keep our internal compass calibrated, we can stray from the main path and get lost in dead-end alleys of endless questioning. The true journey is not about finding a definitive answer, but about developing a deeper relationship with our own consciousness. When we observe our thoughts with a critical and detached gaze, without fully identifying with them, we begin to glimpse our true nature.
It's impressive how both masters show us that the question of the observer more than a mental trap, is a portal to self-knowledge. Let's move on to our next question. An intriguing question now arises. Yogananda, is the mind a useful tool or a source of self-deception that distances us from our essence? How can we navigate this duality?
Rubian, that's an excellent question that touches on a crucial point of our inner journey. The mind is like a river. When it flows naturally, it can take us to extraordinary places of creativity and discovery. However, when obstructed by debris of conditioning and fears, it can become an obstacle to our true nature. In my own journey, I have realized how the mind can create labyrinths of doubts and comparisons that take us away from authenticity. Our society bombards us with standards and expectations that, if not consciously questioned, end up obscuring our inner voice. Kriya Yoga teaches us something valuable. We can use the mind as a refined tool, but we need to learn to sharpen it correctly. When we observe our thoughts with compassion, without fully identifying with them, we create a sacred space that reconnects us with our spiritual essence. The key is to recognize that the mind is not our enemy. The problem arises when we become its prisoners. It is possible to transform it into a valuable ally in our spiritual journey, as long as we maintain awareness of its limitations and tendencies towards self-deception.
What an enlightening perspective. And you, Marcus, how do you see this dual role of the mind in our journey?
Look, Rubian, I see the mind as a compass. When well calibrated and guided by the stars of wisdom, it leads us accurately. However, if we allow it to be influenced by distractions and illusions, we can lose ourselves in the storm of thoughts. The real challenge lies in cultivating mental purity and integrity. When we can observe our thoughts clearly, recognizing that they do not define our essence, we free ourselves from the shackles of self-deception. It's like cleaning a foggy mirror. The clearer it is, the better it reflects our true nature. Suffering often arises from the distorted opinions we form in our minds. The constant practice of self-observation allows us to identify these patterns and act in a way that is more aligned with our internal principles, maintaining a deeper connection with our essential truth.
It's fascinating how both perspectives show us that the mind can be both a bridge and a barrier to our spiritual evolution. The secret lies in how we use it. Let's move on to our next question. Here we have a fascinating question that touches the essence of our being. Yogananda, is the idea of a separate self the root of human suffering or a necessary component for individual experience?
Rubian, this question brings forth a fascinating paradox of the spiritual journey. Our individuality is like a unique painting. Each stroke, each nuance has its specific purpose. This sense of being unique allows us to savor the richness of human experiences, relationships, and personal discoveries. However, when we cling too tightly to this individuality, it's as if we are building walls around ourselves. We begin to see the world through the lenses of separation, competition, and scarcity. That's where suffering is born, in unmet expectations, fears, and the feeling of isolation. Imagine a river flowing naturally. It follows its course in harmony with the landscape. But when we try to control it excessively, building dams and diversions, we create resistance and potential destruction. Similarly, when we rigidly cling to the separate self, we block the natural flow of life. The secret lies in balance, recognizing our individuality as a tool for exploration and growth, but always remembering that, in essence, we are part of something greater. It is through this understanding that we can transform suffering into wisdom.
What a deep perspective on this paradox. And you, Marcus, how do you see this duality between the individual self and our connection to the whole?
Look, Rubian, the individual self is like a lens through which we experience life. This individuality allows us to develop discernment, cultivate virtues, and make conscious choices. It is through it that we build our character and navigate the world of values and ethics. However, when this lens becomes clouded by excessive attachment, we begin to distort our perception of reality. Constant comparisons, vanity, and selfishness can make us lose sight of our fundamental connection with all beings. The true challenge lies in finding the balance, honoring our unique journey while keeping alive the awareness of our interconnectedness. When we can harmonize these aspects, The separate self becomes a bridge for personal and collective evolution, allowing us to live authentically while cultivating empathy and compassion for others.
What beautiful reflections! I see how individuality can be both a portal for growth and a veil that separates us from the greater truth. The wisdom lies in using this tool without becoming prisoners of it. Let's explore a question that touches the deepest part of our being. Yogananda, how can we differentiate between the voice of the mind and the silent wisdom of consciousness? What helps us recognize each of them?
Rubian, this differentiation is truly subtle but fundamental to our inner journey. The voice of the mind is like a constant storm, restless, agitated, always jumping between future worries and past memories. It creates a whirlwind of thoughts competing for our attention, generating confusion and uncertainty. On the other hand, the wisdom of consciousness is like a starry night sky, vast, serene, and luminous. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. Its presence is felt when we allow ourselves to quiet down. It is that deep knowing that emerges naturally in moments of inner silence. When we face an important decision, for example, the mind may be overwhelmed with deadlines, outside opinions, and expectations. But if we allow ourselves a moment of quiet, this silent wisdom emerges as a clear intuition, knowing that dispenses with elaborate explanations. That's why meditation is so valuable. It creates the necessary space for us to distinguish between mental noise and the voice of our essence.
What a beautiful distinction between these two inner voices. And you, Marcus, how do you perceive this difference between mental chatter and silent wisdom?
Rubian, this distinction is like learning to recognize different frequencies in a song. The voice of the mind is like a chaotic river, whose turbulent waters are always stirred by doubts, judgments, and criticisms. It constantly seeks external validation and fears disapproval, creating an endless cycle of anxieties. The wisdom of consciousness, on the other hand, is like a deep lake on a windless day. Its crystal clear waters reflect accurately, without distortions. It manifests through clear intuitions and spontaneous decisions that seem to spring from a deeper and more authentic place within us. To differentiate them, we need to develop discernment through self-observation. When the mind speaks, we feel agitation and turbulence. But when consciousness manifests, we experience a natural clarity and freedom, even in the face of difficult decisions. It is in moments of contemplation that this wisdom reveals itself, allowing us to live more aligned with our true nature.
What a profound understanding! Like an orchestra where we need to learn to distinguish each instrument, our work is to recognize these different inner voices. Let's move on to our next question. We have arrived at a fundamental question that touches the essence of our being. Yogananda, if we are not our thoughts, emotions, or body, how can we define our existence? A truly profound perspective. And you, Marcus, how can we understand our existence beyond these superficial layers?
Look, Rubian, our existence transcends these temporary manifestations. Imagine a river that flows constantly. Its water is always in motion, but the course of the river remains. This is us. Our thoughts and emotions vary like the waters, but the consciousness and reason that dwell within us remain as our true essence. When we distance ourselves from the identification with the body and the mind, we begin to cultivate the understanding that our existence is defined by our actions, principles, and the way we relate to the world and others. It is our choices, guided by virtue and wisdom, that reveal who we truly are. Our existence finds its deepest meaning when we align with our inner nature and live in harmony with the universe. It is through this conscious connection that we discover our true essence.
What a beautiful understanding. It makes me realize that our existence is much deeper than what we can touch or think. It is a dance between consciousness and experience. Let's explore a question that touches the core of our spiritual journey. Yogananda, does the detachment from the self created by the mind lead to inner peace or to a disconnection from reality and human relationships?
Rubian, this is a question that touches on a crucial point of our journey. The detachment from the self created by the mind may seem, at first glance, like a path to isolation, but in fact, it is a doorway to a deeper connection with life. Imagine a fruit-bearing tree. the more fruits it offers, the more it manifests its true nature. Similarly, when we detach ourselves from the identities and labels that the mind imposes on us, we become more authentic in our relationships. Detachment does not mean indifference, on the contrary. It is like cleaning a foggy mirror, allowing us to see more clearly both ourselves and others. When we free ourselves from the need for control and the expectations that the ego creates, our relationships flourish with a natural authenticity. Thus, what may seem like disconnection on the surface is, in fact, a profound reconnection with the essence of being and with others. By accepting the transient nature of things, we find a harmony that transcends the limitations of the ego.
What an enlightening perspective. And you, Marcus? How do you see this relationship between the detachment from the self and our connection to reality?
You know, Rubian, the detachment from the self constructed by the mind is like learning a new way to dance. At first, it may seem awkward, but over time we move with more naturalness and grace. When we free ourselves from the mental constructs we create about ourselves, we open up space for a deeper understanding of reality. It is not about denying our individuality, but about realizing that we are part of something greater. An interesting example is that of the artist who frees himself from the fear of criticism. He does not disconnect from the audience. On the contrary, his art becomes more authentic and touching. Healthy detachment allows us to cultivate compassion and a deeper understanding of others, creating relationships based on sincerity and mutual respect. The key lies in balance, detaching from the distorted self-image that the mind creates while maintaining our capacity for connection and empathy with the world around us.
What a beautiful understanding. I realize that true detachment does not isolate us, but frees us from more authentic and profound connections. We have arrived at a fascinating question that touches on a crucial point of existence. Yogananda, how can we reconcile the need for a functional identity with the understanding that the self is a mental construct?
Rubian, it is a deep and very practical question at the same time. Think of identity as a theater, where each of us plays different roles in life. These roles, whether as a child, friend, or professional, are essential for our adaptation and interaction with the world, giving us a sense of belonging and direction. It is interesting to note that, when we understand that the self is a mental construct, we begin to realize that these identities are not the entirety of who we are. Like an actor who can leave his character on stage, we too can learn to let go of these identifications when necessary. Meditation offers us a direct experience of this. During practice, we observe how thoughts and identities arise and disappear, revealing that we are not necessarily what we think. This process helps us use our functional identity in a more fluid and conscious way. The key lies in finding balance, assuming our roles when necessary, but remembering that, on a deeper level, we are much more than these constructs. It is like looking to the back of the stage and recognizing the light that shines behind the curtains.
What an interesting analogy with the theater. And you, Marcus, how do you see this dance between functional identity and the understanding of its illusory nature?
Look, Rubian, identity is like a garment we wear. It provides us with the necessary form and function to interact in various spheres of life. However, just like clothes, this identity can and should be changed as we evolve and situations demand. It is fascinating how we can be authentic even knowing that the self is not fixed. It is like an artist who adapts and molds according to the moment but keeps his creative essence intact. This allows us to fulfill necessary functions, to be a friend, a worker, a leader, without becoming overly attached to any of these definitions. The secret lies in balancing this need for identity with the recognition that we are more than these constructs. This awareness frees us from the shackles of the ego and allows us to flow through life in a richer and more meaningful way, always connected to our true essence.
What a beautiful understanding. I see how we can use our identities as useful tools while maintaining awareness of our deeper nature. Our culture has a profound influence on our perception of ourselves. Yogananda, does it reinforce the illusion of a separate self, making it harder to achieve inner freedom?
Yes, Rubian, our culture has a significant impact on this issue. Think about how we are constantly encouraged to build a unique and separate identity, as if we were isolated islands in a vast ocean. This mindset distances us from understanding our truly interconnected nature. Today's society glorifies individualism in a way that can keep us trapped in a limited view of who we are. It is as if we are wearing glasses that distort our perception, making us see only fragments of reality, when in fact we are part of a much larger whole. Through Kriya Yoga and other spiritual practices, we can begin to remove these distorted lenses. Meditation becomes a powerful tool to transcend habitual thought patterns, allowing us to recognize that we are expressions of the same universal consciousness. True inner freedom arises when we begin to question and let go of the labels and possessions that culture makes us believe are essential. It is a process of awakening to a broader reality, where we find authenticity beyond social constructs.
Very interesting, this perspective on how culture shapes our perception. Marcus, how do you see this cultural influence in the formation of the separate self?
Rubian, culture indeed plays a significant role in this issue. It is as if we are all participating in a grand theatrical play where each one receives a specific script about who they should be, often making us forget our essential and interconnected nature. When we overly identify with this cultural script, we end up developing a mindset that excessively values individuality, generating feelings of isolation and suffering. It is essential to remember that, just like in a living organism, each part has its unique function, but all are intrinsically connected to the whole. The key lies in constant self-observation and reflection on our thoughts and actions. By looking inward with honesty, we can begin to identify and question these cultural constructs, opening space for a deeper understanding of our true nature.
Fascinating how both perspectives show us that inner freedom lies beyond the cultural constructs that imprison us. Let's move on to our next question. Wow, what an incredible conversation we had today. I truly feel grateful to have mediated this deep dialogue between two extraordinary masters. Your perspectives on consciousness, identity, and self-knowledge certainly brought valuable insights to all of us. I want to immensely thank Master Yogananda and Master Marcus Aurelius for sharing their wisdom with us today. The way you managed to translate such profound concepts into practical and accessible examples is truly inspiring. I very much hope to have you both again on our podcast to continue these transformative reflections. And you who followed along, don't forget to check out the other two videos that appear now on your screen. Just click on any of the images to watch. If you enjoyed this content and want to continue exploring deep themes like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Here we always bring relevant conversations that can transform your way of seeing life and yourself. Thank you for watching until now, and I wish you to be free from everything that takes away your peace.